mine went into the Marine Corps and came back on leave. And he was so drastically changed by his training that he became kind of brutalized. I mean, all he wanted to do was wrestle, and he was wrestled really rough and threw me around the room, and because he had taken some, wrestling or, karate stuff, and so but it was kind of strange to me. And then when I was 19, I was actually in college, but the college failed to send my transcripts in, so I got a notice that I was going to be drafted. And so rather than wait, I just went ahead and what you call volunteer for the draft. So, and a month later, I got my draft notice and reported to the reception center in Phoenix, Arizona. And they put me on a plane and sent me to Fort Bliss, Texas. And my life just changed drastically from that point. When you go into the military, you no longer live in a democracy. You live under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which is a totally different system. Not fair all the time either, but they do that to maintain discipline. So they can do a lot of different things to you that they can't do to you as a citizen of the country. So, although we were still citizens, but we didn't feel that way. First thing they told us was, you are no different than your weapon. You are expendable. And so, all those things that they did made us feel like, everything was in question at that point, and we didn't know, we didn't really understand yet. So then we went into the training, and we did a lot of marching and a lot of low crawling, and we were getting yelled at constantly, because the whole premise of going in the military at that point was to break you down and then make you work as a team. So they demoralized you to the point that you identified with all your peers. And we were in a company of 230 guys, and it pretty much worked. I mean, if anybody screwed up, everybody got punished for it. One guy throws a cigarette butt on the ground, you all fall on your bellies and do the low crawl and pick up every cigarette butt you can find. Just things like that. It was just, so then during training, they did, at that time, they did a lot of stuff they don't do anymore, but we witnessed a guy get killed during training, so that really set the tone for, we finally realized that this is pretty serious what's going on here. And at the time, Vietnam was going hot and heavy, and at that time, you didn't know if you were going to go to Vietnam or not. And so they were training us as if we were all going to war. So they wanted to train you to be a killer. So you were constantly yelling, kill, 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 while you're stabbing dummies. And so it was pretty traumatic for somebody, of your age. I was about your age. I was 19 when I got drafted. So it was pretty traumatic, but it made you realize that you were going into harm's way, and that you needed to try to be ready. And so the mood of everybody kind of changed into a more serious tone, because then everybody realized that we weren't playing kid games anymore. This was the real world. We were having to grow up real fast. A lot of people were pretty immature at that point. So, so I trained with a lot of guys, and then I got sent to Oklahoma. And after basic training lasted about 13 weeks, and then I got sent to Oklahoma for what they called my training, which, as a draftee, you were drafted into the Army for 2 years, or you could sign up as regular Army for 3 years. And then I got sent to Oklahoma for my training, and then when I was about a year into my service time, they sent me to Thailand, and I was in northern Thailand for 1 year, and then I was discharged out of the Army there. So, but I was lucky. I didn't go to the war zone, but we were. I don't know if you know where Thailand is in relation to Vietnam, and then you have Laos and Cambodia, and then Thailand next to it. And we had a lot of insurgency there, so it wasn't like, it was not totally safe, but I mean, I was there 3 weeks and we got shot at, so, again, then it makes you just like, wow, this is serious, what's going on here, so. But all in all, we had it really good compared to the guys who were stationed in Vietnam. Well, that first one was when we got shot at. I was working on a tank farm, and we were chopping weeds off the side of the berm, because in the Army, if you're not doing something, they're going to yell at you, so you need to be busy all the time. So we were chopping weeds off the berms around this huge tank that had JP4 jet fuel in it, and we were just chopping away, and we heard this ding, 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 and we looked around, and on the next berm of the next tank, the dirt is flying. The sergeant comes running out of the tent and starts yelling, "Incoming, incoming!" And so we were like, "Whoa!" And then so we ran down inside the thing, and then the Thai Army, which was surrounded our base, because at the time you had an Air Force and Army back to back in a lot of different places in Thailand, because we were bombing Hanoi from Thailand. So they wanted to stop us. They wanted to try to do things that would slow us down. They were trying to blow those tanks up. That's what they were shooting at. But so that, and then one other time, they had a theater on post, and we were watching a movie, and it just got dark. It had windows all along the top of the theater, on the sides, and in an instant, it was for 2 seconds, it was bright as day. And then it went dark, and then a concussion hit the building and just boom, just rocked the building. You could just feel the building just move like that, and all the glass crashed into the building. And we thought we were, and the sergeants started yelling, "Incoming, incoming." So they had bunkers outside, and they would run down and jump in the bunkers, because we thought we were getting mortared, at the time. Well, what happened is they had bomb storage, and somebody had booby-trapped a 1,000-pound bomb that went off probably a mile away from us, and it set off a concussion of other bombs right there next to it, because they were for the Air Force jets. They were stored them on our side of the base. So, and we thought we were being attacked at that point. So that was, that was pretty freaky, because we weren't supposed to have weapons in Thailand, so we didn't have any way to defend ourselves. So it was kind of an uneasy feeling, but. Probably so many I can't even say. I can't think of particularly anything, but you make such good friends in the military, because you get closer to them than you ever got to your family, because you're in these desperate situations, you feel like, and you just expose yourself, and so you get really close to other people. And so I made some really close friends, but just never kept in contact because of the memories of what happened and people that I knew. I didn't like going back to that memory, so all those relationships kind of faded. But I still have things that happened. When you're young like you are, and you might have memories of when you were really young and something happened traumatic in your life, and your mind is like a camera. It takes a picture of something, and you just never forget those pictures. So it's a pretty emotional time. When you're young and when you're young and bulletproof like you guys, you just feel like nothing can really happen to you, and but then during that time we realize that life is pretty precious. So at the time, there was a lot of peace movement things going on, the hippies and Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco, and I actually left the country from Oakland, California, which is next to San Francisco, and a friend of mine drove me up there, so we went to Haight-Ashbury during 1967, when it was in its heyday. So we drove up and down there, and I saw, what all these people, it was all free love, and and then the other side of the coin was, if you were in the military, you were totally on the opposite side. Not that I didn't respect what they were trying to do or say, but it's like two different worlds you were living in. And then when I came back, it was like we were disrespected because we had gone and killed babies, they said, all these things that we were accused of doing. So you didn't wear your uniform, if somebody asked you if you'd been in the military, no, you know, you wouldn't say that. Where now I'm pretty proud of the fact that I did what I did, but in those days, it was one of those things that you didn't just openly tell people. So, yeah. Imagine a letter coming to your house saying you've got to go with us for 2 years, you know, and you don't have no idea what's going to happen. So, your whole life just becomes a big question mark. You don't know what's going to happen, where you're going to go, what you're going to do. So it's a pretty bewildering feeling. You know, it's one thing to take a trip and go somewhere to Europe or something, you know, knowing you're going to be safe. But when you go off like that, you just don't know. And I just so admire people these days who enlist. And I don't want anybody to enlist in the military because of what I say here, but you know, it's just these young people who go. I just have a lot of respect for them because, you know, they're doing the same thing. They're going somewhere not knowing what's going to happen, knowing that people get killed in war, and you know, so. Oh yeah, because, you know, when I left Oklahoma, the biggest portion of the guys who I trained with, we were in a training company, and so you just, you know, you spend day and night with these people, and so most of them went to Vietnam. So when I got to Thailand, I constantly put in 4 or 5 requests for transfers to Vietnam. I wanted to go to Vietnam. I wanted to because my friends were all there. And you see that today in today's military. People want to go back to Afghanistan. It's hard to understand why they want to go back, because they go back because their friends are there. They want to support, you know, and it's really strange. But they would never send me, but I didn't know. But my mother had put in a letter to the Army, and it's called a last name carrier request. I'm the last male that has the Dumont name. So had I been killed, I guess they figured that, you know, the name wouldn't go on. And since World War II, they instituted that, where the 5 Sullivan brothers got killed, and there was no males carrying that name forward from their family or something. So that's where that came about. So they would never send me because of that letter that my mom said. I didn't know that until I got home, and she told me that. And I guess I was kind of relieved at that point. So, you know, but you just really get brainwashed in the military. I mean, it's a combination of brainwashing that they do, and then the tight bond that you build with other people that you just don't want to be apart from them. You know, you so want to get out of basic training when you're there for 13 weeks because they just put you through hell. But the day you leave, it's so funny. Nobody wanted to leave. We didn't want to leave because these were all now our family, you know, that we grew up, that we stayed with for 13 weeks and suffered with. So it's really kind of strange, the mental things that go on during the time you're in the service. But I'm so proud and so happy that I served. My dad served in Second World War. He was in the Army Air Corps, on the Army Air Force. And my uncle was a navigator on a B-17 and flying over Germany, got shot down. And so a lot of family history, you know. So I would have gone in the military one way or the other at some point. So I didn't really know a lot about it. I mean, other than my friend coming back and changing, I had a kind of a premonition of what it was going to be like, that they were, that it was not going to be a holiday, you know. But it was really strange. When I got drafted, we were in a room, and they were just drafting every day, 80 or 100 guys from Phoenix, Arizona, and there was 80 of us in this room. And they put uniforms down between us. They separated and they counted, and they put us 2 different groups, and they got uniforms between us, and they said, okay, you guys, you're drafted into the Army, and you guys are drafted into the Marine Corps. So you could have been drafted into either one. And we knew that we were lucky to be drafted into the Army because the Marine Corps was so hardcore, and you were pretty much assured you were going to go to Vietnam. And so, well, like I said, you just, at the time, the peace movement was so strong, and you came back and people just would disrespect veterans because we were known as baby killers. That's what they called us sometimes, you know. I mean, there was a lot of people who wouldn't say that, but just at that time, it was like there was no coming home like now. You know, these guys come back and they meet him at the airport, and you know, they're heroes, and we felt like we were too, but you know, it wasn't acceptable at that time. So to be, you know, to go and know, oh, you should have gone to Canada. You know, the people that did know, they said you should have run away. You should have gone to Canada, and you know, but I couldn't do that because my dad had served, and you know, didn't want to disrespect my family and the heritage that my family members had created, and so it was it was not something that you talked about in groups of people. You didn't offer that information to anybody. I grew my hair out, you know, first thing, because I didn't want to be picked out as a military person. So.